process is probably more important.
It is,
Yeah.
definitely.
And that's gonna get
Yeah.
talked about on the 6th.
When would people like to have a backup time scheduled?
What's the original time?
The original time is to evaluate the SOQ from Monday, the 6th, through Tuesday, the 14th. That's on the schedule that Paul, number 2, has put together for us.
And
Then-
they're gone.
No, so I recommended Tuesday the 14th, and everybody said it's too quick after the
So then
holiday.
we came up with Wednesday the
So
15th.
then I said the next day. Yeah, that's, yeah.
Unless you want, I gather there's several people that are not available that week of the 6th. However, you know, if you don't have, if people aren't available at the meeting, you know, I can certainly represent anyone who sends in
Yeah.
a document saying, you know, Phil's done that for me with the
Right.
geotechnical, it was wonderful. You know, hey, here's my rank order, and I just took that and ran with it, so, you know, that can be put up on the, you know,
That's-
cover it up and, okay, now that everybody's, you know, hit their buzzer and done the votes, here's the 2 people that aren't here, and here's what they said, but.
Here's what I
It's
really
up to
think,
the
you guys. I think one of the most important things we're gonna do is select an architect. I think that is gonna set the tone for everything, and I think to rush it, hey, I have a personal conflict. I would like to be here, your chair. I think that's significant. Number 2 is, we should not rush the selection of an architect.
Yeah.
We're talking about a difference of, the schedules, I didn't realize that the schedule shows us doing it until the 14th. So, to me, we're on the schedule if we do it on the 14th.
Except I think you guys are 15th is the date.
14 or 15.
It's not a big deal. I mean, and I think with
We can
George
do it
saying
on the
that there's
14th if we have
another,
to. Let's do it as late as we can, so Dee's coming from jury duty.
Please. Well, give me a reason to get out.
I mean, if we took that week to look at the RFQs, that would really afford us the time on the 6th to focus on the RFP,
Yeah,
to make sure it's presented to the council on the 15th, correct? Is that what we're looking at?
The council hopefully will see it by the 15th.
Right.
Which means it needs to be done by the 8th.
Rose,
Right.
since I have
So
a
the-
conflict, then what would you lead this part of the meeting?
For now, or?
Yeah, this part of the schedule.
Why? I mean, they're,
I'm feeling conflicted.
well, you want to be here, I understand that. And we have a conflict.
But we've got to
We need to move on.
And we've got to finish the RFP, so if you're not going to be here on the 6th,
So I'm here on the
Oh, he's here
6th.
on the 6th.
oh.
I'm leaving the morning of the 7th. I'm back on Columbus Day.
Which
Well-
is the what, 13th?
Yes, the day, yeah.
So what's your intention? I mean, to meet on the 15th, are you going to take the work with you and?
Yeah, he's gonna email it.
well, then
It's all
just,
digital.
then just send us your ranks.
I don't understand the value of meeting the prior week. I don't, what's different if we meet the prior week?
If you meet in the prior week and are able to come up with your short list of architects, and it's all done by the 8th, we can have the RFP and the short list on the council agenda by the 15th and issue it.
I don't think we'll get all that done on the 6th.
I know we've been pushed before, and we've had to make decisions
Yeah.
on other things this summer or earlier in the year, and this is really important. I'm gonna be away, and if we get 30 of them to read, I'm not gonna be doing it when I'm not coming.
Mhm.
Well, yeah.
It's not positive.
I'm only hopeful that we get 30 to read, actually.
Okay, but if we
We
get
don't know.
10 to read, I'm not gonna have
Right,
time
yeah.
to read them thoroughly, and everybody needs time to
Yep.
process what they're reading and compare them.
Right.
I agree. Even with the 5 PM experience, it was a push. It was all done in a weekend. You know, I was jet lagged and I really thought it was rushed, even though we came out with a good outcome.
You don't know that, you know, we'll all, you don't, in that outcome, it seemed that there was a clear
Yeah.
first place, but we don't know that we're gonna have that,
Right.
and
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
we won't know it.
Gives us a week to review the RFQs, and the 6th, we're concentrated on the
It really
RFP.
takes a long time to go through this stuff. It really does.
You've got to figure at least 1 hour, probably 2 hours for
Yeah,
every single one.
and you go
If
through
you've got
it.
20, that's 40 hours right there.
And you have to go through it again, and you know, hopefully you can go through it the second time. just to
3
make
passes.
sure.
3
Yeah,
passes.
well, okay, you're 3, I'm hoping 2, but, yeah, it's tough, and we don't know how many.
I would, if it helps you at all, when I put this together, I was going under the assumption that at the council's work sessions, they don't typically take action on something. City manager has said, that's a possibility, focus on, and, the council saying, yes, we concur, as they have, with what the CCAC has done in shortlisting, let's move forward. So that really relaxes this, that gives you, I'd call it 2 weeks of flexibility. So if you did it that week, I think we can still keep on this schedule that Paul's put together. And
Sort of.
the schedule is aggressive to do that because, Paul is concerned with every month you delay potentially adds cost to the project. So stay on the schedule, selecting the architect in December and getting them underway so they can start design in January. Even if you made the selection that week of the 13th. So that works.
But
That's,
we have money in December, okay?
yeah, that's the other issue. The city attorney has said, good, excellent point, Dee. The city attorney has opined that, once we start design, we're off the taxpayer number. Now, we have funds to advance from, the building funds and the library funds, but we have to have the ability to pay those back if we don't go forward. So having some money in the bank to authorize, because it would be irresponsible of me as a staff person to recommend to council to authorize a $2 million contract if there wasn't $2 million backing it up. You could say, well, we're only going to authorize it for, the rest of programming and schematic design, but that seems wrong somehow.
So what are we saying then? We want to meet the 14th, the 15th?
15th at 11:30.
15th and 1:30.
You're in charge of this. I
Okay.
appreciate it, Bruce.
You owe me.
I do, yeah.
And given the volume that we don't know, you might want to have a second, possibly, the 17th
Which is a Friday.
as a fall, as an additional. I'm
Well,
just
but
suggesting.
here's the process, look, if we've all had that much time to review these things, and we're coming to get to a short list,
Yep.
we should be able to, in 2 hours, have to vote, take a vote 17 times if we have to come to our short list.
I agree.
I'm fine with that. I was just offering.
One thing we could also do is, we could consider, is will staff help us do this by making some kind of a matrix?
I'll do the matrix.
Yeah, okay, but will staff,
I think we want it filled in
meetings.
somewhat.
So they could say, these are the firms we think have the required things, do you agree? They have the required skills.
Staff wants to be careful with
Don't do
prejudice,
that.
sure.
Yeah, we-
I agree,
No.
that's bad in the public
Don't do that.
process.
Yeah.
So
We all-
far,
Right.
it's worked better for me to rely, with Phil, with the committee on
Okay.
project management. I was very diligent in stepping back and saying, what is it you guys want to do?
And we can provide you with caveats that they've met the minimum submittal requirements.
Okay,
That
that
sort
would
of
be
thing,
great.
but,
Yes,
Yeah.
they haven't, I don't know.
right, exactly.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
Wednesday, the 15th at 11:30, it is.
Okay, I'll
Okay.
come up to 11:30, that's the only thing.
you'll be here in a minute.
I'll be here.
Oh, no.
So noted.
Well, but if if we're gonna do votes, then why don't we start at noon?
Okay.
We're ready with that, then you're-
11:30 was to get Paul from.
Okay, noon.
Okay, good, that's better for you.
That's
Noon-
Yeah, that's fine.
Noon to 2 p.m.?
Bring your lunch or have, because it will be a long meeting.
All right.
Things are,
Is that noon to 2 p.m.?
Yeah.
I think it's at least that long, isn't it?
Okay.
It's usually we get the job done.
I'd say noon till 3. This could easily be 3
Whatever.
hours.
It starts at noon, that's all we have to do.
Okay.
So then we have council meeting that night from 6 to 11. So,
That's not fun.
yeah, think about that.
Okay. All right, are we ready to move on? Next one? Okay, so, item 7, formation deletion of ad hoc committees. Yeah. Okay, so the first one for discussion is there's been a lot of discussion around should there be a sustainability committee? And if so, what would it look like? And I've had a good chance to talk with Rick. Probably not, no Brown Act violations, but we talked about that in the meeting. We can do that. And I think the thought is, should this committee start doing, should this CCAC empower itself, enable itself to learn about sustainability as it will apply to this project, it could apply to this project? And should we name a subcommittee to start doing research to bring back to this committee? And so I just wanted to open the floor for that discussion.
Can you define sustainability?
Sustainability means building above the building code to reduce the use of utilities coming from outside the site. I think, there are better definitions.
I think it's more than that, but it's looking at the kind of the environmental impact of doing the project. So you would look at possibly, using materials that would be sourced more locally rather than longer transportation. Looking at reusing existing materials as you demolish and crush and reuse. Looking at minimizing the life cycle cost of the building. Looking at the indoor air quality so that it's not, there's less plastic in it that's not outgassing. Those kinds of issues.
Recycled materials that are new materials, like carpet that's been recycled, things like that.
Well, I've heard words thrown around that I don't understand enough about, and if that's what we're doing, I'd like to know that. I meant like, there are different leads levels, and there's a net zero, and I think that part of doing a thorough job here is educating this committee, and therefore the community, on what that means, what the costs are, and if we can do those things on this site in particular, and if we can't do the whole thing, if we can't get to the whole thing, are there parts of that that we can adopt, and what are the costs of that? I think as a person who's doing fundraising, I need to be able to talk about that to the people that we're going to. And by looking into it, I don't think we're saying we're doing it or we're not doing it. I think we're just going to understand what it means and make those decisions a little bit further down the road.
It will help to inform the committee and therefore exactly beyond the committee to inform the community what is the impact. Because there are trade-offs between your initial cost and your life cycle cost. I had a diesel car at one point, for example. It was higher upfront cost, but my operating cost over the life of the vehicle was lower because it had more energy per gallon.
So, Paul, I haven't met you yet, but nice to meet you. So does that sound reasonable for us to be doing that?
To your point, that if you're the spokesperson to the community about these initiatives, yes, you need to be informed of what the possibilities are and what the cost-benefit analysis of those elements are. There's a lot of green energy in the state of California that's become de facto. For many years, all green initiatives were pushing the envelope. And then the LEED program came into place as a voluntary effort that you could step into. Now California Building Code has a green code that is not exactly LEED, but you get most of those components by law when you apply for a building permit. So what we're talking about is the things that go from that level up. So the more esoteric net zero type application. And people will talk about various initiatives, but for instance, the trees here are fairly important to the community. We're not going to cut them down and put in a PV array on the roof. So you need to sort of weigh what's possible. So, yeah. And part of the LEED process, there's an initial checklist that the design team goes through of all of these various components of the building, from what to do with the site, the building, the mechanical system in it, and how you recycle them. And you run through a list and says, yes, we're going to do this. Maybe we can do this. No, we're not going to do that. And then you get a range of things that you can look at as the design progresses.
So this sounds to me like the time we should be doing this.
Yeah.
So what I would say, I think chartering what the task is of the ad hoc committee is really important. And I think that initially, the ad hoc committee needs to investigate what is available, what's possible on the site, there are initiatives that others have put into place, like PG&E has a whole program called Savings by Design, and they have a ZNE initiative called the ZNE Pilot Program that they just launched. They haven't done anything with any public buildings yet. They have hundreds of thousands of dollars available for pursuing these initiatives because they want to encourage people to save energy and to implement energy efficient design. Some of that is directly in Title 24 and some of it exceeds Title 24 because Title 24 has requirements about design initiatives, including ZNE, going forward in the future. So I think we want to meet with those people and figure out what's possible, and then we want to look at the site. And I don't know if the committee's going to figure it out. Certainly the architect will be involved. We need to, the first task is, what are we putting in the RFP that might relate to this area? Seems really important why we need to do it now rather than later.
Haven't you already put that information then into your RFP?
It's a
We're just asking at this point for the expertise that the team would bring to do that analysis. We're not saying it's got to meet this or that. Some RFPs do. They say, must meet minimum LEED silver. But as Paul said, the California building code now is moving really pretty fast in terms of meeting that, energy and environmental design concept. But there are also trade-offs. I mean, you can do geothermal energy, which has, which may mean you have very low operating costs over the life cycle of the building, but the initial cost is very large. So you have to look at those trade-offs.
Especially with that Chechi going right through the center.
Actually, that won't make a big deal, but
It really sounds like
If you
it
could put the geothermal
Right
pipes
in it.
into the water,
right, yeah, then
you'd
you
be
can
able
do
to get a
something.
real good exchange.
Put a turbine in there.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think maybe as a process for this, first question is, does anybody not think it's worth having a subcommittee to look at sustainability? Anybody say, no, don't do it, we don't want to do it? People comfortable with the idea? Because then the next thing is to scope it, what their objective is, at least kind of the broad, what are you doing, and then name it. That feel right to everybody?
Sounds good.
Okay, so to me, the things that occur to me that there's a fine line between research and saying this is how we should build our project. So and that's the line I think we want to be very careful walking down as we have to figure out the spectrum between where are we going to be between informing this group, here's what's possible, here are the kinds of projects, here's examples of those projects. Paul gets involved if Gordon, George Roquet saying this is the cost impact it would have to go LEED Gold or LEED Platinum or zero net energy or whatever. That's informational and research oriented. Then there's the next level, which is directive. I don't think we're at that level, and that's what I want to, because there's been a lot of pushing. We have to do this, so that's what I just want to talk about openly with everybody here. How do people feel about that? For me, that's the null hypothesis. This is research, educational, informative. We're coming up with, these are different scenarios, these are numbers we can talk about. How do people feel about that?
I think that's a fair starting point, especially for those of us who are not aware of the specifics of
Okay.
it. I'd like to know what exists, how much that would cost and how much it might save and all of those pieces. But I wouldn't want it, I would like it laid out as an informational
Okay.
piece.
I think the important thing at this point, in the next month or two, is that we need to be able to tell the architects in the RFP process what the likely range of sustainability issues might be, so that they can,
Right.
they can talk about their qualifications, and we can devise some sort of pricing matrix. Whether we eventually have PV or we don't have PV, they can include that.
And when we interview them, it'll be meaningful, because everybody will know what's that term they're using, what does that mean? Yeah. Other comments or thoughts?
I just think we have a tremendous resource in Paul here that we need to keep engaged and tap into as far as leading us in the right direction as far as some of the different topics we're talking about too. I mean, he might be able to propose ideas or different things that we can research that maybe we don't think of.
I'll do.
It's Beamer, just for the.
Beamer.
I'm sure I did. Paul, did you want to, this is a good moment if you'd like to talk about what you think would be valuable for this whole committee.
As far as sustainability?
The charter of the committee is going to go look at it. What should they be doing? At this point, what's your opinion?
I think the committee, to Dee Dee's point, needs to be informed of what the general concepts are in sustainability. There's a lot of it that is going to be dictated by cost or by building code. So there's no sense in researching products if the building code is going to make you do it anyway. So some of it's just informing you initially. I think the time it's going to take to make these decisions is going to go well into next year, because once you've got a design team on board, you can ask them the questions about their ability to design net zero buildings, but you won't get to actually implementing that until we've gone through several iterations of the design and we've costed those options and said, this is how far into the design process we are. Is this something we should be looking at, yes or no? Some of those decisions don't need to be made until way later. Some of them, if we don't have the money for all of the bells and whistles, we can list them as bid alternates when we put the drawings out to bid. So that's the timeline that I would look at for your committee. And I think that the initial understanding of what's available are good questions to ask in the interview for these design teams. That'll help inform you. And then as the design progresses, there will be several phases of information that come along where that design team will tell you what the potential is for this site. So let them do their homework. They're going to come in and do the due diligence to say, all right, we've got a site that the geotech has said ground source heat pumps may be a possibility into the ground here. Because of the trees that are here, we may not be able to put the building there. Do we want to shift the building so that we can add PV to the roof?
Right.
But then down the road, you'll need to make those decisions depending on how much money we have for the whole project. So, and some of those, like with the fundraising, it's good to get them out on the table and say it's a potential, and you can have people like PG&E or others who will sponsor that kind of initiative.
And then would you be able to help us understand maybe cost-benefit analysis, future operating cost savings, future return on investment, and that incremental
Yes.
cost?
Okay, so then that's scoping. So is that, I think there's a general, it's educational, it's driving toward educating this group, impacting the RFP, how it might be worded, and helping us know how to interview when we get there. And then as we go further down the road, we'll look into with the architect, what does this mean for this specific project? Does that make sense, everybody?
And all this information that the ad hoc committee gathers would come back periodically as a report to this committee,
Exactly.
as we go along. And, that would be very helpful, in fact, to then pass along to the fundraising committees as something that can be incorporated into the overall fundraising efforts. Because my experience recently, very recently, has been with community that there are many people in the community that will get very excited about the fact that Atherton is looking at building something very special. That's not just your standard issue brick and mortar, but it will be an example for the community for energy saving and reducing resource use and.
Okay, so, thank you. Then the next question is, so there was form, the next question is form. And in anticipation that we want to do this, I asked Rose if she'd be willing to share. Because she's an architect, she's got experience, and Rick, I know, is interested in being on it. I'm talking to anybody else because I didn't want to have any violations of the Brown Act. But my hope is that people who can really spend time, who are very, and who can really get into it, either have been involved with before or can really spend the time to get up to speed. So if you built an energy efficient building or worked out a project that, or if you really would spend the time to get up to speed, that's my hope. But who would be interested in serving?
I nominate Phil.
Will you nominate me?
So we've got the library ad hoc committee
Right.
back together. It's like
Exactly right.
we're bringing the band back together, just like the Blues Brothers.
You can vote.
Okay?
We're
The
nominating
library ad hoc
nominate
committee.
Clive.
And then are you going to?
No, that's just,
No, I
we
think
can have
have
three. So it should be Rose plus two others plus Rick.
Come on,
Yes.
Clyde.
Yes, Clive.
Would you be interested, Clive?
Hi.
Okay.
Yes.
I mean, is anybody feeling like I really wanted to do that and I'm feeling sour grapes if I don't get to be heard for it?
Well, I'm kind of,
A little bit.
yes. You've heard my-
Is there any reason you can't be?
You could. If you want to.
I think it's
And
fine.
then I want to know, can we add additional residents as part of, stakeholders or?
Here's
You should.
here's what I feel about that. This committee will have to come to a recommendation to come back to CCAC. So at some point, there's gonna be a vote or something in that committee. What are we
Well, no,
gonna
no.
say to the CCAC?
I don't think so.
There might be, I don't know if there would be.
But my gut is
No,
this,
I
the
think
actual
they did
committee
with the
is
library
people
ad hoc.
from this body,
Yeah.
but you should reach out to the resources, because there are a lot of them in this town, the people who really care and live for this, and will bring a lot to bear.
Mhm.
And so rather than saying this resident and that resident, and this other person are on the committee, I would just have you guys, the five of you, talk about who can be helpful to us, and then reach out to them. So the committee is 5 people. It's Elizabeth, Rick, Clive, Rose, and Phil. And if you guys choose to reach out to more people to get advice, you do, but the committee's those 5. That's the name committee.
Well, from this group, I mean, this group actually, Elizabeth and I aren't, we're ad hoc members, so
We're liaisons.
to the extent that, I guess there's a formal vote, it's the other 3. I don't think residents would vote, but we've established a technology committee, so I disagree with what you said. We've established a technology committee, which I think now has 7 members,
Of residents.
Teresa knows, and 5 of them are residents.
Mhm.
And, I mean, we'll see how much time they put into it, that's a good question. But I think it's important, especially with this civic center, for all of our ad hoc committees, for us to try to pull residents into them so that more people get involved in this effort. This is a big effort. This is the biggest effort the town has ever undertaken, and I feel very strongly that we need to broaden the involvement of the residents in the effort.
I think we're talking about a nominal difference. I'm just saying
Maybe,
there's
I
a,
don't know, maybe we
and
could
me,
get,
I would.
there's people that are really
maybe
involved in this
So,
subject matter.
But Steve, let me just kind of restate what Rick said, is that council created an ad hoc IT committee with the vice mayor and councilmember Widmer. They have gone out and and I was speaking with one of your resident members yesterday, and who's so excited about it. I mean, he's talking fiber, he's so excited, and it's a project, single focused. It's, got like a duration of it. It's not like sitting on a council endorsed committee for 4 years. And these, high-powered residents love this. And so I think it's a great opportunity to tap some of the talent that we have in our town. And it's not that they're gonna come on and be on our committee here, our council-appointed committee, our Brown Act committee, or take that away. I mean, I just think it's
Or if we
really.
only have a vote.
Well, here's
No,
what I
have
would recommend,
this
the five of you should have a committee meeting, and you should talk about it.
Yeah,
Well, perhaps I can bridge, because I think you're right, you're probably saying the same thing.
Okay.
You're suggesting that the actual formal committee
Right.
is those five. The actual formal committee is those
Those three.
That's the ad hoc
Okay.
committee of this group. Their responsibility is to report out and back to the CCAC what's going on with the ad hoc committee, which can be any number of people from the
Mhm.
community with special
Okay.
interests and participation.
And my goal is, you guys decide, you guys work that out. You're smart people, come back and tell us what you wanna do. Yeah. Great, okay. Thank you. Then the next one, are we done with that one? Yeah. Everybody's good, okay, good. 7B is, formation of a committee to review the RFP.
That's the whole,
What's
I
that?
thought we were gonna do it as a whole.
Just like we did the
The
other.
question is, should there be a group, well, the RFQ took 2 months. We had to go through 2 meetings. So the question is, should there be a 3-person subcommittee that will, when are you gonna do the RFP, Gordon? When are you gonna draft it?
In the next couple of weeks, working with Paul.
So they do the first pass and clean it up a little bit and say, oh, there's a typo here, and oh, what about the sustainability stuff? Just somebody to help it get to the next pass. So on the 6th, it's approvable. It's one shot. We don't have to. It's just a way to maximize the probability it's approved on the 6th.
Well, you can make the master plan, you can make the project management committee do
Could be that group.
And
If that
it's
was,
basically,
Well, who's on the project management? I'm thinking about.
I think it was you three.
Clive, Rose, and
Clive,
Phil.
yeah,
So that's not gonna work.
five rows and Phil.
You're
yeah.
gonna die.
That's not good. That's not
You're
good.
gonna float away in the wind.
Yeah, that's not good.
so could,
Okay, so why, we have a meeting on the 6th and then a meeting on the, what is it, the 14th?
But that meeting on the 15th is going to be
15th.
busy.
Okay.
There's not going to be time to talk about an RFP.
on the 6th?
On the
15th.
15th on the
And the
6th.
deadline for the council.
On the
to get
6th, we were hoping that we would talk
Right.
about it, right, Paul?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, the question is, can we do it one shot? Because the RFQ, which is a much simpler document.
Yeah.
Can it,
before this
can it
group
be
in August
sent
and
out to
then
the
budget.
whole committee before the 6th?
Yes, but that doesn't mean we're not gonna.
Yes,
talk
it can.
about it.
Yeah.
That's the one we gotta do
But
right.
we can't send any comments back. I mean, except
You
the
can
board.
send it back,
Just
you
send it
can
back to
send it
me.
back to Gordon. Yeah,
Are we comfortable with that?
you can send all your
One
comments back to
meeting, I'm
Gordon.
not comfortable with one meeting.
One meeting.
Doing it.
Because it could count in a month.
That's the one we gotta do right.
Yeah, I agree.
Well,
That's
then,
why
then we can,
Mhm.
mull it over and bring it back on the 15th
We won't have time on this.
and have,
No, we won't have time on the 15th.
So on the
but
6th,
it's
if it looks like it's gonna take
That's
another
if you want
meeting, let's
on the
just
October
plan
agenda,
it
right.
for another meeting and do it separately.
Mhm.
It's too important a document to mess up. Hundreds of thousands of dollars.
That's the key one. That is the key
Or
one.
we name 3 other people to review it. Or these guys say they'll do it, but I don't know that they're gonna want to, because they gotta start doing this
No,
stuff.
that's true.
I
Yeah,
think that the whole committee should take a look at it.
okay,
I agree with that.
Yeah.
all right, it's just that there's a potential month, just to call that out now. Okay.
Well, if you are, when you're reviewing the shortlist, folks,
On the
The
15th.
15th.
so that's not going to make the council agenda
No.
for,
Anyway,
anyway.
no.
Right, so if we were gonna put if you have the short list by that date, and you review the RFP on the 6th, and then
Again
review
on
again,
And
except-
the first meeting in November, which would be November 3rd,
Then
that
both
would
lists
make,
go to
it would
the
make the
November
RFP in the November
Council meeting.
council meeting.
Yeah.
But
that
not
would be,
the,
it wouldn't be the fifth.
it wouldn't be
It wouldn't
the,
be the.
Or you could do it you could do it the study session, you could do both the,
it wouldn't, it
Yeah, as long as
wouldn't
you
make,
get
it wouldn't make it.
then this group would have to have a special meeting the week of the 27th.
Right.
yeah, this,
And I don't know why we couldn't do that.
we could do both the RFP and the short list from the
On the fifth.
RFQ on the
Right.
5th of November.
Right.
If this group met,
No.
study session, special meeting.
Because there's gonna, if we have a lot of people to review and discuss, and we don't agree with them, it may take us 2 or 3
You've got a
hours to get
month,
there.
you've got a month, you've got a whole month before that.
We're suggesting you get the RFP on the 6th,
Yes,
You work through it first,
look.
look through
Well, we
it.
get
Well,
it
no,
before
no,
then.
we're gonna
too.
get it
Oh,
before
Get it
then.
before then, you provide feedback, you get it again on the 6th with some of that feedback. And then on the 15th, you shortlist your architects. And then on the 27th or 28th of
Have a
November,
separate
you have a
meeting.
special meeting.
Yeah,
Or the 19th or the 22nd.
October.
Yeah, you have a special meeting of this group to finalize the RFP.
Separate than having them combined.
exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, not
Yeah.
combined, you just have
Then
another
both go to the
And
council.
then, and then they
Right.
both go to council on November 5th.
Right.
Correct.
I think that's very doable. I really do. I
Do
think
we want to schedule that one now?
If you delay any longer, you start
Yes.
getting into the
Oh,
holiday
yeah.
Yes.
It's just,
Okay.
yeah.
So do we prefer Monday the 27th? It's my wife's birthday, so I won't be with her late, so could we, but we could go from 4:30 to 6:30.
Wednesday.
Monday, October 27th, it's our normal, Monday, 4:30 to 6:30 time.
But it's not on Zoom.
Does that work for people? And that would be the RFP
So-
second meeting if we need it.
Why are we waiting that long? I mean, we've reviewed the RFP on the 6th as a committee. We,
Was George's recommendation?
It's just a suggestion, you can do it prior to if you like to.
I do it on the
why not do
20th.
it the week of the 20th?
Yeah,
I
that
do
week,
it the 20th.
20th, 21st, 22nd.
Because, if it takes longer, then you've got another week you could address it.
Mhm.
If you wait.
Does that not work for everybody?
I'm clear on the 20th, and then you can stay as long as you want to stay, because you won't have any events that evening.
Monday, October 4:30 to 6:30 is our backup RFP review meeting. We would get out of it if we approve it on the 6th. Does that
And we
work?
leave open the possibility of scheduling another one if we need to, that night or that day,
The third one?
if we need
Yeah.
to.
Well, we have a meeting 2 weeks later. The 15th is for the RFQs.
So we're looking at the 6th, the 15th, and the 20th.
Okay, then the 20th.
We're gonna meet 3 times in October potentially.
So what's the 24th?
No, it's gonna get sad.
It's crunch time. It's just crunch time. It's okay.
We did that for the master plan process.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, well, to
We
be
did.
clear, was,
It
so
was
just to be
good.
clear, Monday, October 6th is a firm date.
Our regular meeting.
The other